On the outside, Leon Trotsky portrayed himself to his party comrades and the Soviet public as a staunch Bolshevik committed to the fundamental goal of establishing the victory of socialism. Only time would later reveal the truly devilish machinations of Leon Trotsky and his followers, when in the 1920s and 1930s Trotsky engaged in a criminal campaign of terror, espionage, and sabotage against the Soviet Union. But behind his otherwise convincing Marxist mask, Trotsky was a determined Zionist whose interests in establishing a Jewish homeland were a central component in his Bonapartist ambitions to seize control of the Soviet Union after the death of Vladimir Lenin. The origins of Trotsky's Zionist inclinations can be traced back to the beginning of his career in politics. In 1903, Lev Trotsky attended the notorious Zionist Congress of 1903. Though many of his later biographers have attempted to cast aside Trotsky's interest in Zionism, the account of Trotsky's presence at the Congress has been well established by known participants, including Mark Cherblum, a representative of the Socialist Zionist Bloc from the Second International, as well as Moshe Novomaisky, a Zionist and industrialist, who also attended the Congress. Likewise, during the Second Party Congress of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, in 1917, Trotsky defended the views of the revisionist, counter-revolutionary Jewish Bund and entered into open confrontation with Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks. During the Congress, Trotsky openly flaunted his Jewishness before the participants and was noted for openly advocating policies that would improve Jewish presence in the eyes of party members and the Soviet public. Following his exile from the Soviet Union, Trotsky returned to the Jewish question, writing prophetically about his concerns over the question of a dedicated Jewish homeland in response to fears of rising anti-Semitism in Europe. In 1937, while in exile in Mexico, Trotsky was visited by the Russian-born Zionist leader in Palestine, Biba Idolson, who interviewed Trotsky and later reported on their conversation. Idolson later wrote on her conversations with Trotsky, saying, "I told him who I was, and that at the time I had been expelled from Russia as a Zionist, socialist. If he was interested, I would tell him about our life in Palestine." Trotsky got up from his chair, asked me to wait a while, and soon returned with his wife. He introduced me to her and asked me to tell him everything. He wanted to know about Palestine and was happy to hear a report from a person living there. I talked to him not as one talks to a stranger. A feeling accompanied me all the time that he was a Jew, a wandering Jew, without a fatherland. In his interview with the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, also in 1937, Trotsky recalled that he had been inclined toward the idea of assimilation of Jews, but had changed his attitude because of historical developments. Thus, the traitor Trotsky once again expressed a view in opposition to the standing theoretical position of the Bolsheviks, which had found that Jews do not constitute a separate nation, and thus failing to meet the criteria necessary for the allocation of exclusive autonomous status. In fact, had Trotsky not been brought to justice for his crimes in 1940, no doubt he would have eventually found himself emigrating to the newly created Zionist state of Israel, and likely would have approved of the current atrocities committed by the Jewish bourgeoisie in the occupied territories against the oppressed Palestinian people.